Hello, this is Lisa, CEO of Sight for White, welcoming you to this week's Talking News on Saturday the 14th of January 2023. I am delighted to confirm that the newsletter has gone to press and will be sent out to members on Monday the 23rd of January. As usual, there's lots of input from members, which is always so nice to receive. Thank you very much to everybody who contributes to the newsletter. For those of you who have heard about the antics people have got up to on our previous Sight for White holidays, the next one is due at the beginning of April this year. So if you are interested, please don't hesitate to call Susan at the office and to look at reserving your place. Also contained in the newsletter is information on our open day, which is Saturday, the 11th of March 2023, and it will be held in central Newport with easy access from the bus station and a car park. We have a wide range of other organisations attending, so if you are interested in coming, it is always useful to know numbers in advance. Again, please don't hesitate to contact the office. At the time of recording, it is bright sunshine outside, very much hoping this very wet spell is now over. Everybody, stay safe. Thank you, Lisa, CEO, Sight for White.
Hello, this is Steve reading a story from the Island Echo, headlined, Council left £350,000 out of pocket after Tour of Britain cancellation. The Isle of Wight Council has been left £350,000 out of pocket after the last leg of the elite Tour of Britain cycling event was cancelled, and the public, taxpayer-funded purse may not see a penny of that figure back. The race was supposed to take place on 11th of September last year, but was cancelled 2 days before following the death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. The island agreed to host the final leg of the Tour of Britain in 2020, with the intention to hold it in 2021. However, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the race was pushed back 12 months. To host the event, the Isle of Wight Council had to pay £250,000 to the organisers' Sweet Spot. The authority also incurred further costs. However, those were not covered by the organisers, including road closure orders, marketing and public relations. Some fees were able to be recouped, but due to the last-minute cancellation, the council still had to pay £100,000. Some sponsorship agreements to cover costs had been agreed, but they fell away when the event did not take place. By hosting the Tour of Britain, it was thought the island would make around £4 million by attracting more people. Some monetary benefits had been identified, the council said, even though the event was cancelled. In the contract between the Isle of Wight Council and Sweet Spot, in the case of an extraordinary event beyond the control of either party, known as force majeure, the council would be entitled to a refund of the host venue fees after real costs had been deducted. The authority says the company was suitably insured to allow for this to happen. However, the council said it was made clear by Sweet Spot from the outset it would not be in a position to refund any of the money. Discussions have continued, and the authority says it has been agreed a sum would be provided against a future cycling event on the island. Sweet Spot has been contacted to ask why the money cannot be returned. The Isle of Wight's Corporate Scrutiny Committee will be considering the matter at its council meeting this Tuesday, that's the 10th of January.
This is Den reading an article from the Island Echo. 2022 was a positive year for tourism, says Visit Isle of Wight boss. Last year was a positive year for tourism, the head of Visit Isle of Wight has claimed. Speaking to an Isle of Wight Council committee on Thursday last week, the director of the tourism organisation, Will Miles, gave an update to councillors. While he fears 2023 may be more challenging, research suggests it could be positive. Mr Miles said it is forecast 35.1 million tourists will visit the UK from abroad this year, fewer than in 2019 when 40.9 million made the trip. No data was gathered during the COVID-19 pandemic. He told the Policy and Scrutiny Committee for Neighbourhoods and Regeneration the island usually gets around 6% of the total number of tourists travelling to the UK. Mr Miles said, "While I feel 2023 will be a tough, challenging year for tourism, The actual research is quite positive and buoyant. He shared data from Visit Britain, which shows the number of British people enjoying overnight visits is likely to increase, especially between January and March, when 19% more people say they plan to travel. Meanwhile, the Tourism Management Organisation's autumn advertisement campaign asked visitors to say yes to the Isle of Wight. In August and September, the adverts were watched 68.5 million times. The adverts also led to 84,635 clicks for the Isle of Wight Visit Island website. Mr. Miles says it was positive, but the team was looking at how it could do even better. Meanwhile, a television advert about the Isle of Wight debuted on Boxing Day. Committee member, Councillor Ian Ward, on seeing the advert said he thought it was for a Venezuelan island. Mr. Miles said it was there to challenge perceptions of the Isle of Wight and show how it is a great place to visit and not stuck in the 1950s.
This is an article from the Island Echo, read by Terry. Operation Holly sees 280 drink-drive arrests made over the festive period. Officers from across Hampshire and Isle of Wight Constabulary made more than 280 arrests as part of Operation Holly, the annual Christmas drink and drug driving crackdown. Between the 1st of December and the 31st of December last year, officers from the Joint Operations Unit carried out targeted patrol activity in order to stop drivers and carry out drink and drug roadside testing. A total of 286 arrests were made across Hampshire and the Isle of Wight, with a further 451 in the Thames Valley. In December 2021, there were a total of 639 arrests made as part of Operation Holly, with 276 across Hampshire and the Isle of Wight alone. Of the arrests made during the most recent campaign, 153 were for drink driving and 133 were for drug driving. Chief Inspector Chris Spellerberg of the Joint Operations Roads Policing Unit said, "While I am pleased this year's campaign has been a success with so many arrests, there are still too many people continuing to get behind the wheel despite being under the influence. Anyone who drives after drinking or taking drugs is putting the lives of innocent people at risk. All too often, drink or drug driving leads to devastating collisions where people are killed or seriously injured. Even the smallest amount of alcohol or drugs can impair your ability to drive, and we hope the message of this campaign gets through. It is never acceptable to drink or drug drive. It's not worth the risk."
This is Alison, reading an article from the Island Echo entitled "Council Must Balance the Budget Amid £22 million Funding Gap. Serious Financial Trouble Looms." The Isle of Wight Council could be left with just £2 million to spend before it hits serious financial trouble, it has been revealed, as the anticipated budget approaches. With the cost of living crisis continuing and added inflationary pressures, the authority is facing a challenge to balance its budget, which has a £22 million funding gap. The Council has anticipated raising council tax by 5% to increase its income and cover areas where there are financial challenges. Any less of an increase, the authority has said, would mean even deeper cuts to services. Through various sources and funds, the gap can shrink to £10.4 million, but further action needs to be taken before the Council can approve it in February. In an update given to the authority's Corporate Scrutiny Committee earlier this week, the Council's Director of Finances, Chris Ward, said he believed the Council can deliver a balanced budget, but it may have to rely on its saving reserves to do so. Doing so, he said, would reduce the Council's financial resilience, as it may not be able to address known or unknown risks in the future. Currently, the Council has £12 million in its reserves, but would be reduced to £9 million, with the £3 million being used to offset some of the cost pressures. The authority must maintain at least £7 million in its reserves before intervention has to be taken, meaning if the reserves were to be reduced, there would only be £2 million available should something happen. To mitigate the risk, Mr Ward has advised the Council make £3 million of savings instead of £2 million in the next year. If the Council were to dip below the £7 million reserves level, Mr Ward would have to serve the authority a Section 114 notice, meaning it bans all new spending with the exception of protecting vulnerable people, statutory service and pre-existing commitments. Mr Ward has also warned the authority would have to mitigate and ration the money services have asked for to meet the additional cost pressures. Overall, services have requested more money than is available, nearly double the amount.
Hello, this is Steve reading a story from Isle of Wight Radio. Headlined: Expert reveals most common social media scams of 2023 and how to avoid them. Cyber criminals are producing new ways to steal from unsuspecting social media users, often trying to obtain account login credentials, personal information, or bank and credit card information. Cybersecurity expert Liz Wegerer from VPNoverview.com reveals the most common Facebook and Instagram scams of 2023 and how to avoid them. Facebook is the most popular social media app worldwide, and scammers flock to it to fleece unsuspecting users. With so many active users, fraudsters have a vast pool of potential victims to target. Here are some of the most common ways they try. Phishing scams, emails or direct messages with sketchy links that download malware or capture login credentials on spoofed websites. Fake profiles, people pretending to be notable people, enticing you into giving out personal details or clicking on a malicious link. Romance, friend requests and direct messages that attempt to create a romantic interest with the goal to steal money from the victim. Prizes or job offers, claims designed to obtain personal information or money from the victim, including "you've won" scams. Quizzes and games, designed to elicit personal information in the answers through the kind of information people may use to create passwords or answer security questions for their online accounts. Charity please, creating fake charities to get donations during times of disaster, using sites like GoFundMe. The most common Instagram scams of 2023. More than 1 billion people use Instagram each month, making it the world's 4th most popular social media platform. Cybercriminals know this and have several tricks to infiltrate your account and steal your personal information. These include fake investment offers. Scammers promise you a great return for just a small investment. Bogus brand collaboration requests. Fraudsters offer to pay you for promoting their products, then steal your financial data when you provide them. Selling followers and likes. Asking you to pay a nominal fee in exchange for like or follow packages, but your financial data gets stolen when you send financial details. Giveaways. Entice you to try and win a prize, but then you will be asked to provide personal information or payment to claim your winnings. Imposter brand accounts sell counterfeit goods or never deliver the promised goods at all under the guise of a popular brand to drain your bank account. How to avoid scams on social media? Number 1. Lock down your privacy settings. Your Instagram is set to public by default, allowing anyone to see your posts. To protect your privacy, set your account to private only so that only your followers you approve can see your posts, make comments and send you direct messages. On Facebook, while you can never hide your profile pictures or cover photos, you can hide almost everything else from those outside your friends list through your settings. Use strong passwords and enable two-factor authentication. One of the easiest ways to prevent unwanted logins on your accounts is to use strong passwords and enable two-factor authentication. With this in place, any time someone tries logging in from an unrecognized location or device, they will also have to enter a one-time code in addition to your username and password that is sent to your phone. Keep track of third-party apps. Over time, you have likely connected several third-party applications to your Instagram account. You should regularly review these applications to ensure no suspicious connections have been made and delete any you do not recognize or no longer use. Only buy from verified profiles and brand accounts. Before you buy anything on social media, check to make sure the account you're dealing with is verified. All legitimate brands on Instagram and Facebook are verified with a blue circle check mark next to their name. Search regularly for accounts in your name. To avoid the damage of someone cloning your accounts and using these fake accounts maliciously, get into the habit of regularly searching Facebook and Instagram for your name. This only takes a minute and is an easy way to identify and report imposter accounts. Decline friend requests from anyone you do not know. Get in the habit of declining friend requests from anyone you are not familiar with. The more friends you have that you do not know, the higher the risk you will be approached with a scam. Never click on suspicious links sent to you or respond to unsolicited messages. Whether it is a phishing email or a private message from a friend, avoid clicking on unsolicited videos or links. If you think a friend sent you something, double check with them before clicking, especially when what they sent you involves compromising information about you or says something like, "OMG, is this you? Or have you seen this yet?"
This is Den reading an article from the Island Echo. Food hygiene inspection backlog down to COVID pandemic, says council. More than 100 eateries and restaurants across the island are currently awaiting food hygiene inspections, with the Isle of Wight Council admitting that inspections haven't taken place at their usual rate as a result of a COVID-19 backlog. During the COVID-19 pandemic, inspections were halted whilst social distancing was enforced. When it was then possible to continue conducting inspections, once again a new system was introduced that meant establishments that pose a risk to the public were prioritised. This means that there is now a large number of establishments that serve food on the island that are currently operating without a food hygiene rating. One such business that is still awaiting its environmental health inspection is Hungry Bear in Brading. The eatery moved to Brading back in October 2020, having previously been located at the Lavender Farm in Newport and then Fakenham Farm in St Helens. After nearly 2.5 years in Brading, the premises has still not been visited by inspectors. It is currently closed until Saturday the 28th of January for a winter break. But it's not alone. KFC in Lake, which opened all the way back in January 2019, has also not been visited yet. A total of 108 such establishments require a visit by the council officials, including the Bugle Coaching Inn in Yarmouth, the Buddle Inn in Knighton, and Long Island in Newport. It is unclear when the process, given that almost all COVID-19 restrictions have been lifted, will be conducted in the same way it was pre-pandemic. An Isle of Wight Council spokesperson has told Island Echo, since the pandemic, the business regulation team are working on a recovery plan which includes resuming food hygiene inspections. This is in line with the guidance from the Food Standards Agency and an inspection programme that is based on the relative risk of a particular premises and the available officer resources.
This is an article from the Island Echo, read by Terry. £1,000 handed to Mountbatten thanks to Vectis Historic Vehicle Club's fundraising efforts. The Vectis Historic Vehicle Club have this week handed over a cheque for £1,000 to Mountbatten Hospice. The money was principally collected by keen members dressed in Christmas-themed fancy dress during the annual Static Show in St Thomas's Square, Newport, on the 10th of December. Club chairman Bill Rasmussen met with Nigel Hartley, CEO of Mountbatten, on Thursday and explained how members recognise the great work that Mountbatten does for the island community in end-of-life care, as well as other health support categories. Nigel thanked the members attending the presentation for the continued support of the club, which has contributed many thousands of pounds over the years. Club President Peter Hodgson said that club members were very pleased to make this collection for a charity which has provided care to so many people on the island, but still requires constant funding to carry on with that care in the future. Classic vehicles at the presentation included an Aston Martin from Joe Kitney, a Volkswagen pink and white camper from Steve and Lil Downey, a Triumph Spitfire from John Baker, an MGB GT from Peter Hodgson, a Rover, Tim and Linda DeBooz, and a Mini Countryman from Trish and Simon Boyle.
This is Den reading an article from the Island Echo. Council to continue accepting soft furnishings despite regulation changes to disposal of upholstered seating. The Isle of Wight Council has moved to reassure island residents and businesses that its household waste recycling centres will continue to accept soft furnishings, such as sofas and armchairs. The assurance follows the introduction of new Environment Agency regulations requiring all upholstered seating to be separated from other waste and safely disposed of by incineration. For most residents, this will mean little change other than their padded seating and other soft furnishings placed into a separate container at one of the council's household waste recycling centres at Afton Marsh and Lynn Bottom. For businesses using the commercial waste and recycling centre to pay as you throw for their own waste, same entry point as the household recycling centre, the council requests upholstered domestic seating, sofas, cushions, chairs, etc., is bought in a separate load from other waste and placed in the separate container. Mixed loads will be charged as all containing persistent organic pollutants, that's POPs. Some private waste carriers who have a separate contract with Thalia, the council's waste service provider, have been signposted to alternative disposal facilities for such items due to regulatory and capacity issues at the current waste transfer station, located at Lynn Bottom and operated by Thalia, which they had previously used. The council will continue to collect soft furnishings as part of its bulky waste collection service, and reusable soft furnishings for free as part of its reuse service. Natasha Dix, the council's strategic manager for environment, said, "We want to reassure residents that all households and all commercial businesses can continue to bring their own waste, including soft furnishings, to one of our recycling centres. We have dedicated bays at both of our recycling centres for people disposing such items. Please make the meet and greet person aware on arrival, and we will then dispose the items in accordance with the new guidance. For businesses delivering their own waste, we ask for this to go to the Commercial Waste Recycling Centre at Lynn Bottom. This includes sofas, chairs, etc. Councillor Karen Lucioni, Cabinet Member for Waste Services, said, "We are an island of conscientious recyclers who love and care about our environment. Our waste service provider is working hard to ensure we can comply with the changes in the Environment Agency's regulations at our sites and at the soon-to-be finally commissioned Energy from Waste plant. I would like to reassure the private waste carriers on the island that the request not to bring POPs to site is only a temporary measure due to capacity to store these materials at this time. Residents can check whether a company has a waste carrier's licence on the Environment Agency website. Visit www.beta.iow.gov.uk/recycling-and-waste/ to book a bulky waste collection or a slot to visit one of the Council's household waste and recycling centre.
This is Alison, reading an article from Isle of Wight Radio, entitled Cows Week announces Tall Ships Youth Trust as official charity partner. Tall Ships Youth Trust, TSYT, will be the official charity partner of Cows Week for 2023 and 2024. Founded in 1956, Tall Ships Youth Trust is an outdoor learning charity that helps to improve the skills and life chances of people aged 12 to 25 from disadvantaged backgrounds through transformational experiences at sea. TSYT has a fleet of 4 72-foot Challenger yachts and a 55-foot ketch, and sails all year round, providing around 1,000 young people from across the country with a life-changing experience. The opportunity enables them to develop life skills, confidence and self-esteem, helping to raise their aspirations and supporting them to make positive life choices. Lawrence Mead, Regatta Director at Cows Week, said, "There aren't many better ways to build self-confidence and a sense of self-reliance than sailing. Seeing young people get that start in life on board the charity's yachts is wonderful, and we can't wait to have them join us at Cows Week 2023. Over the next few months, we will be highlighting ways you can interact with Tall Ships Youth Trust, leading up to Race Day 1 at Cows Week on Saturday, July the 29th. Entries to Cows Week open soon, and there will be an opportunity to donate to the charity when you enter as well. More information about Cows Week can be found online."
This is an article from the Island Echo, read by Terry. Isle of Wight care and support providers deemed to be the best in the country. The Isle of Wight has ranked number 1 in the UK in an independent national review of care homes and home care. The findings form part of the Trusted Care Quality League table that compares the performance of 47 counties over the past 5 years. The Trusted Care report ranks counties in order of the proportion of care homes and nursing homes within the county with a Care Quality Commission, that's CQC, rating of good or outstanding. On the island, the percentage of registered homes rated good or outstanding rose from 70% in 2017 to 97% in 2022. Laura Gaudian, the Isle of Wight Council's Director of Adult Social Services, said, "This achievement is a testament to the dedication, hard work and determination of our local care home and home care providers and their hard-working staff teams. They are incredibly dedicated to delivering the best care and support to some of the most vulnerable members of our island community. We have been really fortunate to work in partnership with Mountbatten Hospice to create a programme of learning and development aimed specifically at raising the standard of care and support on the island. This has paid dividends. To have been recognised nationally for the hard work of all those involved in delivering care and support is an amazing achievement during these challenging financial times. We continue to work together to do everything we can to deliver the best outcomes for our residents. Most importantly, we have been making a real difference in people's lives, and that's what gives us the motivation to do our best every day." Councillor Carl Love, Cabinet Member for Adult Social Care and Public Health, has said, "Today's news demonstrates the commitment of our island carers and the significant effort made to create the best possible care environments for island residents. The findings of the report are a real tribute to both care and support providers on the island and the Isle of Wight Council teams and volunteer carers who support them. Even in times of financial challenges, the care sector has been hugely supportive and adaptive in the world, which is changed by COVID. We will continue to see greater use of technology and innovation to help people live independently. We remain committed to collectively working together for the people of our island."
This is Alison reading an article from the Island Echo entitled "Waterside Community Trust receives £10,000 Southern Water Grant." As part of Southern Water's ongoing activities to support communities, they have awarded 5 £10,000 grants to regional charities working to support improved outcomes for young people, one of which is here on the Isle of Wight. The grant has been awarded to the Waterside Community Trust, WCT, which provides recreational and leisure facilities for the residents of Ryde and its surrounding area. The charity aims to be of benefit to all members of society, whatever their age, infirmity, disablement, social or economic circumstances, as well as the public at large, in the interest of social welfare and the improvement of life for the local population. The charity plays an essential role in drowning prevention across the island, with the formation of Ryde Beach Lifeguards, a beach safety service operating in Ryde and Sandown during the summer months, as well as delivering essential drowning prevention initiatives, including Sea Safe, Rookie Life Saving, school talks, community CPR training, professional life-saving training, and much more. Waterside Community Trust provides swimming lessons to over 1,000 children per week, as well as providing volunteer opportunities and paid roles to over 50 members of staff, with over 300 employees since the charity's formation. A spokesperson for Waterside Community Trust said, "Southern Water have been a great support to our projects. Without their support, we wouldn't be able to run them, such as our Sea Safe programme, which enables us to teach 1,000 local children drowning prevention skills and knowledge to reduce drownings, especially poignant after the 4 boys who tragically drowned in a lake this December. The funding will enable us to continue these programmes, along with supporting our beach lifeguards who operate in Ryde and Sandown on the Isle of Wight. We cannot thank Southern Water enough for their support. Southern Water's Community Partnerships and Programme Manager, Alex Williamson, said, "Our ongoing community grant programme recognises the importance of providing support for young people in our region and the ripple effect that they have for communities. Through new partnerships over the following 18 months, we hope to support and learn alongside our charity partners and support the incredible work they do with this age group." This is Alison, reading an article from the Isle of Wight Radio entitled "Free Course for Isle of Wight Women Looking to Get Back into Work." Women on the Isle of Wight looking to get back into work but lacking confidence are being offered a place on a free course. Suit Yourself is a 10-week free course funded through the Community Rail Partnership and based inside Sandown Railway Station's community rooms. It's aimed at women who have been out of work either pre-pandemic or due to the pandemic and losing their income. This course was written and has been delivered by Fran Shelley, a community development manager who has been delivering it for various organisations for more than 20 years. The common denominator for these women, apart from being out of work, is low esteem. The course is made up of sessions to help improve confidence, skills for CV and letter writing, a visit to the Isle of Wight College for adult learning courses, a visit to one of the CRP transport partners for mock interviews in the workplace. Regarding the latter, Hover Travel has recently extended this to a trip on a hovercraft for flight attendant training. The course also includes free travel passes to get to Sandown train station. A spokesperson for the CRP said, "On average, out of the 12 ladies who attend each of the courses, 7 return to work shortly afterwards and 3 sign up for college courses." One of the young mums, Farney, who attended the course in 2019, gave a keynote speech at our CRP Rail Showcase last year at the Southampton Harbour Hotel to over 100 attendees. There she shared her experience of the course and how it literally turned her life around. The next course, which is already fully booked, is starting next week. Further information about the courses and how to book your place for one are available on the Suit Yourself Facebook page.
Good morning everyone, this is Mike.
And this is Pauline.
Before we start the second part of the Talking News, here is this week's Society News for the 13th of January. Swimming sessions is on Monday between 1:15 and 2:15 p.m. at Medina Swimming Pool. Transport is available if required. The cost is £5 for swimming and £2.50 for transport. Yoga will resume on the 7th of February at Middlebrook House, starting at 2 p.m. The cost is £3, which includes refreshments. Coffee and chat will be on Wednesday between 10 a.m. and 11:30 a.m. here at Middlebrook House. Please come along and chat with the members, friends and staff.
On Tuesday we have our lunch club at the Isle of Wight College. If you have booked, please arrive at the college for 12:15. The meal is at 12:30. Just advance notice that Striders will be on February the 3rd, not the 27th of January. This is due to volunteer availability. More details will follow. If you're attending any activity at Middlebrook House, please only attend if you are well. This is to protect other members, volunteers and staff, especially this time of year when there's so many viruses around, along with COVID still being here. If you require any more details on any of the above, please do not hesitate to call the office. Near 1,000 hours of discharge. Southern Water has used its Isle of Wight outfall discharge plans for nearly 1,000 hours in recent weeks. One West Wight resident has branded the use of Colwell Bay's Norton transfer as unbelievable. Discharge was pumped for more than 320 hours between December the 27th and January the 10th. According to the utility firm's self-reporting site, Beach Boy, there have also been nearly 400 hours of discharge off Ryde from the Apley Park transfer pipe since December 27th. At Bembridge, the Lane End Road pipe was used for 153 hours between January the 6th and 12th. Yaverland's Sandown 2 pipe was used for 102 hours. Bathing water quality is not monitored by the Environment Agency over the winter months. A County Press reader said, Colwell Bay smells of sulphur and the water along the coast is taupe soup. It's hard to believe this is allowed to happen. Southern Water now classes its discharge differentially, and some of the above incidents are considered to be non-impacting due to the tidal conditions. The firm insists discharge is not raw sewage, but a stormwater mix containing only treated matter, and it only uses the pipes to prevent the system becoming overwhelmed. Meanwhile, the government plans to tackle the problem, but change is unlikely to take effect until at least 2035. By then, it says there will be 70% fewer discharges into bathing waters.
Floating bridge service, a thing to be proud of. We should be proud of the service the floating bridge provides, the Isle of Wight's transport boss has said. It follows the feedback from frequent East Cowes to Cowes chain ferry users, nearly half of whom suggested the service was poor or below average. Speaking at a neighbourhood and regeneration scrutiny committee last week, Councillor Phil Jordan, the Cabinet Member for Transport and Infrastructure, said, "We would be forgiven for thinking the vessel never runs due to the narrative in some corners, but argued it was not the case." Councillor Jordan said since the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency's inspection in spring last year, the floating bridge had operated for 97% of its scheduled hours, around 4,500 hours over 9 months. A survey of Saver card holders between July and August found passengers thought the service could be improved, including operating to a fixed timetable, a new app or text service, email updates, and a faster turnaround. The authority says it has developed an action plan, including reviewing operating hours, loading and unloading procedures, and staff training. The Cowes to East Cowes chain ferry was out of service for nearly 6 weeks between March and April, when it was taken to Falmouth for its 5-yearly safety inspection. It returned to the island at the start of April, but as it was being returned to the banks of the River Medina, the vessel was pulled by a tide and crashed into the riverside wall of GKN, smashing 2 windows, dealing its return. The downtime has been improved, Councillor Jordan said, by having a stock of spare parts, meaning repairs can be done more quickly. Small repairs equated to about 3% of the total operating time. The reputation of the floating bridge due to historic failures has created the wrong perception. The service is poor, said Councillor Jordan. He said, "We should be proud of that service in the last year. I accept there have been problems with the vessel and service, but it has improved." Councillor Ian Ward, the former Transport Cabinet Member, agreed and said the service's reputation had always been incorrect and it was generally more reliable than a cross-Solent ferry.
What's next for acclaimed cafe? A tired and dated but popular cafe on the edge of Shanklin could be reborn with a flat on top. Fears have been raised about cliff stability with the demolition and rebuild plan. Blueberry Cafe on the cliff path overlooking the bay is currently a single-storey building with an outdoor covered patio. However, agent Andrew White Planning Consultancy, acting on behalf of Mr and Mrs Eads, said it is accepted the cafe does not positively contribute to the visual qualities of the area, as it is tired and dated in appearance. In planning documents, the agents say the only thing holding the cafe back is the nature and condition of the existing building. The proposals could improve the cafe facilities, which would benefit both the tourist and residential population, by providing year-round facilities and strengthening the business. As part of the regeneration plans, a 2-bed flat would be built on top of the cafe. It is said to have minimum impact on the amenities of nearby residential properties. The flat will also provide security to the site, the planners say. However, nearby residents in Little Stairs Road have already objected to the plans. They said they're happy for the cafe to be rebuilt and refurbished, but object to the added residential accommodation. One said, "We feel that to build a stable 2-storey building that close to the cliff could cause major disturbance to the cliff edge and cliff path. There are no other buildings this close to the cliff edge." Another highlighted the recent cliff falls in the area and said the larger structure could undermine the cliff as well as neighbouring properties. There were also concerns about the accommodation blocking light into their houses and gardens.
What next for Cedar Tree? English Heritage says it is giving some thought to what will happen to wood from a fallen historic cedar tree on the Osborne estate. It stood on the East Cowes estate, once owned by Queen Victoria and Prince Albert for 3 centuries, but was brought down by strong winds last month. Described as colossal, it was planted in the 1770s by Robert Pope Blatchford, who owned the estate before the royal couple. Prince Albert decided to keep the cedar of Lebanon when he designed Osborne House and improved its gardens. In 1893, Queen Victoria's daughter, Princess Beatrice, buried her dog Blenny at its base. A memorial headstone was disturbed by the downed tree and will be reinstated next to its replacement. Though speeded up, the tree's fate was inevitable. English Heritage said there had been a noticeable lean since stormy weather in the late 1980s and in 1990. It said, "Over the past few years there has been concerns over the health of the tree. We'd taken the decision to fell it, but nature beat us there." There are other Lebanese cedars still at Osborne, and we will plant another on this spot as a replacement. Islanders have called for the wood from the tree to be carved into a sculpture or turned into benches. Toby Beasley, English Heritage's head gardener at Osborne, said, "The cedar of Lebanon was one of the oldest trees at Osborne. It saw Queen Victoria and Prince Albert turn the house into their stunning family home and has stood witness to history for around 250 years. The tree is colossal and will take us some time to clear from the site, so visitors will be able to see this action over the coming weeks, and we're giving some thought about what to do with the wood. We have plans to plant a replacement alongside the remaining Lebanese cedars still thriving in the grounds."
An Isle of Wight charity welcomed MP Bob Seeley to its Centre for Children with Special Needs in Moldova. Just before Christmas, Bob Seeley, together with Chris Green, MP for Bolton West and Atherton, visited the Phoenix Centre in Riscani, which was founded by East Cowes-based charity Mad Aid. Moldovan-born Victoria Dumford, CEO of Mad Aid, said it was a privilege and an honour to have Bob Seeley and Chris Green visit and spend time with the children. Bob speaks good Russian and was able to talk to the children and also to the local press before he travelled onwards to Ukraine. She said Mr. Seeley seemed impressed with the Phoenix Centre and hoped the concept would be replicated here in the UK, preferably on the Isle of Wight. Mr. Seeley said via Facebook that he felt privileged to visit the charity's flagship centre, which is home to 30 children from 10 villages, offering them inclusivity, food, transport, love and care. The centre also provides therapy and rehabilitation to more than 240 children annually. It has administered 27,000 free treatments to children from across northern Moldova and more recently from Ukraine.
Sailing memberships and Bahrain trip. Former Ireland MP Barry Field gifted current MP Bob Seeley £4,000, the latest register of interest has revealed. He also received honorary membership from 2 Isle of Wight sailing clubs and thousands of pounds worth of travel and accommodation expenses for travel to Bahrain and Ukraine. Mr. Seeley told the county press the money from Mr. Field was for campaigning expenses. The Register of Interest, a system used by MPs to declare earnings on top of their salary, shows that since the beginning of the current Parliament, at the end of 2019, Mr. Seeley declared 7 financial interests. Like his colleagues in the House of Commons, he is required by law to report certain financial interests to the Parliamentary Commissioner for Standards. Early interests an MP declares falls into one of 3 categories: donations, earnings from other employment, and gifts and other benefits. The latest figures show Mr. Seeley received the following: Barry Field, former Ireland MP, £4,000 donation. Seaview Yacht Club, honorary membership to value of $2,980. The Isle of Wight Conservative Patrons Club, £5,000 donation. BBC, £200 for an appearance on Radio 4's Any Questions. Yalta European Strategy Flights and Travel, £1,262.66. Accommodation, £314.12. Dinners Hospitality, £450.06. Total value, £2,026. Bembridge Sailing Club, honorary membership, total value £2,440. Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Kingdom of Bahrain, travel and accommodation, total value £5,340. Reacting to the figures, Mr. Seeley said, "I am very happy to be scrutinised on my record, and I congratulate the investigators for doing this work. The more transparency there is, the better. My interests declared here are modest compared to those of other MPs. They include donations to the Conservative Party for the purpose of election campaigning, working trips to Bahrain and Ukraine, and honorary membership of Isle of Wight sailing clubs."
Yuletide hamper deliveries bring Christmas cheer to customers. You should have gone to Specsavers is the slogan, but if you can't go there in person, the home visiting team will visit you instead. This Christmas, Isle of Wight Specsavers identified customers who receive home visits who may appreciate a bit of extra festive cheer. They delivered hampers packed with goodies. Diana Fowler, optical advisor for Specsavers Home Visits, said, "Some of the people we donated our hampers to haven't had the best of last couple of years, so as a team we really wanted to give them something to make their Christmas a little more special. We got Christmas puddings, chocolates, mulled wine, fizzy drinks, crisps, glass cleaning cloths, anything we could think of. When we delivered the hampers, the people were so grateful for us going out to see them, let alone for giving them hampers. We often visit older people and are really conscious that we might be the only people they see that week.
Stamp of approval for Royal Postbox. Queen Victoria's Royal Postbox, believed to have been used at Osborne, is going up for auction. The 140-year-old tabletop letterbox features the Royal Cipher VR, which stood for Victoria Regina. The late 19th century ornate wooden box was found in a cottage in Surrey and will be sold by handsome auctioneers later this month, with an estimated value of £4,000 to £6,000. Its current owner lives in London and said it was believed to have been a Christmas present to a former islander. My grandfather collected amazing objects and was fascinated by antiques and collectibles. They added, "It's hard to part with family heirlooms, but this royal item deserves to be seen and enjoyed." He even had a vintage Christmas card inside. Queen Victoria was born in 1819 and died at Osborne on the 22nd of January 1901. The estate is now operated by English Heritage. Chris Kirkham, Associate Director of Hanson's London, where the letterbox will be offered at auction, said, "I was called in to assess items gathered by a keen antiques collector over a lifetime." Chris says he understands the letterbox was bought at a 1944 or 1945 sale in Carisbrooke, during which items relating to Osborne House were available. The auction house's owner, Charles Hanson, said, "It's a first-class find fit for a queen dating back to circa 1880. We can only imagine the tone and content of the notes the Queen must have placed inside, but one thing we can be certain of is that she enjoyed sending letters and cards. I wonder what Queen Victoria would have thought about postal costs rising from a penny in the 1800s to 95 pence for a first-class stamp today."
Police claim they take action even if it's not on Facebook. A 13-year-old female was charged on Friday with a public order incident, an assault and criminal damage, as well as a drugs offence and a theft, after people complained on social media about a lack of police action on criminality in Newport. A police spokeswoman was forced to defend their actions on Facebook, saying, "I've seen a few little comments pop up on here the last few days, mainly around, why aren't you dealing with X, Y, Z, or there's no point reporting this as they don't deal with it, some of which are centred around the ASB and youth violence issues in Newport, which are often recorded on mobile phones and shared on social media. So I thought I'd pop on with a little update from the Newport neighbourhood team. On Friday we charged a 13-year-old female with a public order incident, an assault, a criminal damage, as well as a drugs offence and theft, all of which were committed in the town centre. Victims of these incidents included shop staff and stores within the town centre. The female will attend the Isle of Wight Youth Court in the coming weeks. Our team continues to target those children who come to the town and commit crime. We are working with partner agencies, including Education, Youth Offending and the Community Safety Officer at the Isle of Wight Council, to resolve these issues. We want people to feel safe in Newport. However, these jobs take time to collate and to gather evidence, and therefore, on occasion, there can be a delay in obtaining the outcome or resolution to them. Doesn't mean we are doing nothing, just that often jobs can sit with different departments until they are linked and dealt with. And we don't have time to update each job on here, but I can assure you, even if it doesn't make Facebook, we haven't ignored it.
White-tailed eagle travels are revealed. The adventures of several white-tailed eagles released on the island have been revealed in an update from the Roy Dennis Wildlife Foundation. The foundation, who released the birds, has reported that 2 territorial pairs of eagles are now established on the island and in the Arun Valley in West Sussex. G274 and G324 were part of the first cohort of 6 young eagles released on the Isle of Wight in August 2019, pairing up in autumn 2020 and remaining together ever since. Approaching their 5th calendar year, they have become fiercely territorial of 2 coastal sites on the island. Project Officer Steve Egerton-Reid, who is based on the island, has been watching the 2 birds closely, particularly their diet. Steve's work has shown the 2 birds catch marine and freshwater fish throughout the year, and also prey on weak or injured Canadian geese, corvids, gulls and other bird species. They are experts at stealing food from other species, including grey herons and Marsh's harriers. Elsewhere, a second pair of eagles has also become established. Eagles G405 and G471 have explored widely since being released in 2020, with G471 summering in the south of Scotland and G405 spending time in Exmoor and Bodmin Moor. Both eagles returned to the island and surrounding areas last spring and met each other in the Arun Valley, and they have been together ever since. Although a year younger than the pair on the island, these eagles have become territorial and are showing encouraging courtship behaviour, says the foundation. On one occasion, they were observed sealing off another eagle from the 2020 release, female G466, who visited the Arun Valley, having been chased off from the Isle of Wight by G274 and G324. The female has since displaced a younger female, G801, released in 2021, who had become a near-permanent resident in Poole Harbour and has recently been spending time with a 2021 male, G812.
Wet Leg at the Brits. Island band Wet Leg will be playing at the Brit Awards this year, and they have also been nominated in 4 categories to receive an award. It has been a monumental 18 months for the indie group since they released their debut single, Chaise Longue, with sell-out tours around the world. This year they are booked to appear supporting Harry Styles in the USA and Australia, and also in Japan, New Zealand, Mexico and Europe. And that's just in the first 6 months of the year. On February the 11th, the band will be playing at the O2 Arena in London at the annual showcase of the UK music industry, while waiting to hear how they have done in the Group of the Year, Best New Artist, MasterCard Album of the Year and Best Rock Alternative Act categories. Of the feat, Rhiannon Teasdale and Hester Chambers, who front the 5-piece band, who all hail from the island, said, "Somebody hold our horses while we get to grips with this wild news. Being nominated for a Brit Award is too hard to comprehend. We never could have expected for our wee band to achieve this."
Will Newport's 1-hour free parking scheme stay in place? The future of 1-hour free parking in Newport remains undecided. The parking pilot was introduced in May last year and allows shoppers to park in Lugley Street, C Street, Chapel Street in the town centre for an hour are free. In the first 6 months of the trial, an additional 62,526 free tickets were issued in the car park. The scheme was brought in after the COVID pandemic to help aid Newport High Street's recovery and bring shoppers back to the town. It was a joint venture between Newport and Carisbrooke Community Council, the Isle of Wight Council and Shaping Newport. The pilot has been hailed a success by the Community Council as visitors' numbers increased in the town. Funding for the pilot runs out later this year and has so far only been backed by the Community Council. In its budget, the Community Council has set aside £40,000, the same as last year, to give the Isle of Wight Council in lieu of the lost parking income in the first 6 months of the trial. After a £20,000 contribution, the Isle of Wight Council has lost £26,027, which was £5,538 less than predicted. At its meeting on Monday, the Community Council has, after assurances whether the free parking will continue, Councillor Matt Price pleaded with the council to keep it going, as it was something the town had needed for a long time, and it had been a tremendous success. He said, "When you look at how other town centres are performing, Newport is doing okay. It is holding its own." Chris Ashman, the council's regeneration director, said, "Conversations were ongoing with the Newport Business Association about how businesses could help fund the scheme and share the financial burden in the future."
The Environment Agency is to start ground investigation work for the coastal defence schemes at Shanklin and Yaverland to protect homes and businesses from the risk of coastal erosion and flooding. Some equipment is already in place and work will start on Monday, that's January the 16th, when special equipment will be used to drill boreholes and dig trenches along the esplanades and on the beach. The results from the investigations will give the project team information about the composition of the ground and existing foundations where coastal defence refurbishment is being proposed. The work is part of a wider scheme to reduce the risk of flooding and coastal erosion around the island. Nick Gray, Area Flood and Coastal Risk Manager at the Environment Agency, said, "The existing coastal defences are in poor condition. We want to improve them so they continue to offer protection for local communities and ensure they withstand the increasingly extreme weather we are experiencing because of climate change. While the work is happening, we will keep any disruption to the local community to a minimum." Temporary fencing will be put around the sites to protect the public, which will mean some footpath diversions and parking suspensions for a short period of time. The work is due to continue for 5 weeks. Councillor Jonathan Bacon, Cabinet member responsible for the environment, said, "It is really encouraging to see that the Environment Agency is beginning the process of ground investigations in Shanklin and Yaverland. Recent damages to the defences in Ventnor has illustrated the potential implications of deterioration of our sea defences."
A busy year for air ambulance. Hampshire and Isle of Wight Air Ambulance responded to 1,814 missions over the last 12 months, making it the busiest year for the charity since before the COVID pandemic, with 244 more incidents than in 2021. December had the most call-outs for the charity, that's 193, in a year in which 34% of incidents involved cardiac arrest and 17% road traffic collisions, with a further 17% classed as medical emergencies, such as seizures. Other cases include falls from height, assaults, self-harm and sporting incidents. Of the 1,814 call-outs, 124 were to the Isle of Wight. Patients were taken to hospitals in Southampton, Portsmouth, Oxford, as well as St Mary's in Newport. The charity aircraft was airborne for 547 hours throughout the year, and the 3 emergency response vehicles covered more than 54,000 miles. To meet the growing demand for its services, the charity saw further enhancement to its operational model, including recruiting additional specialist doctors, introducing secondary daytime crew, and extending its flying hours to 19 hours a day, 7 days a week. Chief Executive Richard Corbett said, "Each of those 1,814 calls for our help meant someone was in desperate need of our care. Whether they require advanced medication or sedation, a blood transfusion, or even a surgical procedure, our specialist crews can do all of this before the patient reaches hospital. Thanks to the advancement of our service, we anticipate being even busier in 2023. It is not lost on me that, despite the ongoing financial uncertainty for so many in our region and beyond, our supporters keep rallying behind us and our patients, and I cannot thank you enough."
A couple who were on the brink of losing their restaurant have been saved by the generosity of their customers. 2 businesses were run at Peter Saria in School Green Road, Freshwater, with a British menu served by Kath and Mike Dasent during the day, and a Chinese restaurant and takeaway service provided by Pete and Ria Gower Crane, the building's leaseholders, in the evening. However, Pete and Ria gave up the lease on December the 23rd, although Kath and Mike kept the restaurant open until the end of the month. The couple needed more than £7,000 to pay for the lease and the first month's rent, and were overwhelmed with offers by their customers to help them. Kath and Mike's The Heart of Freshwater is now up and running, with Mike saying, "We have been remarkably blessed and have been blown away by the generosity and trust in us by so many people who have gifted us the money because they don't want to see us go. We were given the money in just one day. 2 customers each gave us £1,000, with one saying it was in his interest for us to stay open because he has his breakfast here every day. Another customer gave us a loan of £2,500 and phoned a couple of days later to say he only wanted £500 repaid. I can't tell you how grateful we are. There have been a lot of tears of gratitude shed over the past few days." The restaurant is being renamed Kath and Mike's The Heart of Freshwater, as Mike said. "We're known as Kath and Mike, but a customer said we are the heart of Freshwater, and so we have decided to include that in our new signage. We will be open 6 days a week, closing on Mondays, probably 7 days a week in the summer, and in the next few weeks we will be open on Friday and Saturday nights doing homemade burgers and pizzas. Depending on how busy we are, we can set up a delivery service. We'd also like to thank the many people who have helped us decorate and clean our carpets over the last week. We would not have been able to open this early without their help."
Huts bear brunt of cliff falls. A landslip has caused damage to beach huts in Sandown. At least 3 huts have been hit by a series of cliff falls on the seafront in the direction towards Lake. It happened just past Sandown Pier, close to the independent lifeboat station. One of the huts has been pushed forward by the force of the fall. Recent strong winds and heavy rainfall are thought to have contributed. Another area affected is the footpath at Bryston Holiday Centre and the Isle of Wight coastal path between Grange Chine and Isle of Wight Pearl. The path has been closed following the significant landslips. The Isle of Wight Council said the walking route is unsafe to use and has put in diversions. The Holiday Centre path only opened last year thanks to an agreement with the landowner, but it has been rapidly affected by recent coastal erosion. Last week we reported on a landslip in Luckham affecting the public footpath from Shanklin to Bonchurch. Photos by Islander Graham Gardner, who walks and runs the route, show a drop of more than a foot.
And now we go on to memories. Barry would be proud that his little boozer is still rocking along nicely. At this time of year, the Cowes community remembers the loss of Barry Cass, landlord of the Duke of York pub in Cowes. Nearly 2 years have passed since the town was stunned to learn of his death from COVID. After Christmas drinks have been raised and downed and many embark on a dry January in the first chilly few weeks of a new year, it is sobering indeed to recall the absence of friends lost and to remember with great affection the warmth and vitality they brought to so many people. The Duke of York pub carries on welcoming patrons through their doors in the same inclusive way that Barry always did. The Cass family are famously friendly and they admirably continue to serve the community. With Barry's wife Sally still at the helm, the pub is a home from home for many, and never more so than during Cowes Week in August, when she throws what is probably the best party in town. Residents of Cowes are still well used to seeing regatta revellers having a good time. For 1 week every year in August, the normally quiet town stays up past its bedtime and plays host to the thousands of yachtsmen from all over the world that flock here for one of the biggest events of the sailing calendar. Tired but happy crews, looking to let off steam after a day on the water, traditionally head for the dedicated marquees set up along the seafront, where upmarket sundowners can be enjoyed, overlooking the glorious views of the Solent. Competing sailors in their team livery bob about in the sponsored bars to pipe music, sticking together, talking shop, while the members-only yacht clubs host smart dinners. Barry and his wife Sally began providing entertainment some years ago, primarily so that residents had somewhere to go during Cowes Week if they didn't fancy navigating the usual corporate throng of the marina. They hired a band, put on an extra bar or two in their paved garden area, and welcomed anyone who wanted a pint and a bit of a sing-along. It proved popular, so popular over time this well-loved community pub has now become the big and beautiful beating heart of the whole week. At full capacity, the pub and garden can hold 600 people. Every night during Cowes Week this year, friendly security staff ably managed a queue that stretches along the street.
A line of eager faces on craning necks anxiously wait for the unlikely event of someone leaving so that they can get in and join the party. Part of the attraction is undoubtedly the same top-notch band that have been entertaining here year after year, Brando. One of the best cover bands working in the UK, they happily honour their annual Cowes Week slot at the Duke, becoming much-loved members of the Cass family during their stay. The 7-piece group are all seasoned musicians with a repertoire so huge that you are barely hear the same song twice all week. There are now 3 outdoor pop-up bars in the pub garden to ease congestion and avoid bottlenecks inside. One of these is Barry's Spirit Bar, in loving memory of Sally's late husband, expertly manned by their daughters. This is very much a family affair. It is this feeling of family that draws the crowds in night after night. No one demographic outnumbers another. An evening at the Duke during Cowes Week is guaranteed good time in an inclusive atmosphere that feels like the best ever family wedding knees up. International crews rub shoulders with islanders. Smartly dressed seniors sing along with energetic 20-somethings. The only dress code is a smile. The band play songs that everyone knows, everything from Oasis to New York. New York via the Irish Rover, always upbeat. They work the crowd and the crowd love them. Requests are taken, happy birthdays are sung. There is no trouble here, no pushing and shoving, no mouthing off. People are too busy enjoying being part of the something to collectively joyous. Teenagers sit on friends' shoulders like they're at festival, and every single person in the crowd is happy to be here. That's not down to too much beer and sunshine. It's what happens when a diverse cross-section of people are invited into the fold and made to feel thoroughly welcomed. There is no advertising, no tickets, no wristbands, no entry fees, no inflated prices, just a word-of-mouth tip to arrive in good time to grab a spot with enough space to swing your hips to. It's not unusual, and wave your arms to Sweet Caroline. The Case family have worked their hard over the years to shape their Cows Week evenings into the ultimate crowd-pleasing, feel-good night out. But their success feels uncontrived and organic. It's sometimes Sally feels incredibly proud of and thankful for. She takes her role of serving the community very seriously. Famously big-hearted, she puts a lot of love into making sure everyone is looking after and having a good time. And in doing so, she's become an accidental legend.
Now we have My View by Jim Gibbons. Comics started a love of reading. My family were great readers. If nothing else was available, we would read the labels on sauce bottles. But my introduction to reading was probably comics, The Dandy and the Beano, told amusing stories in pictures and in words, so that was helpful for a young reader. Later, The Wizard and The Hotspur were mostly text. We joined libraries as soon as we were allowed in. Rich Mal Crompton's William books were early fodder. In one of the books, written before we knew much about Hitler, William had read about Herr Hitler and his National Socialists, soon shortened to Nazis. William quite liked the idea of being a dictator, but to him, Herr sounded like Herr, too girly by half. So William's gang were called Him Hitler and his Nasties. William books were a glimpse of how the other half lived. The Brown family had a maid and a cook and possibly a gardener, and did they have a car? Books then were written by those who had the leisure to do so. When the war started, W.E. Johns Biggles books were required reading for boys and often bought as birthday presents. Malcolm Saville's and Arthur Ransom's books were devoured eagerly. What was I reading at, say, 15 years old? I think it was Bulldog Drummond and Edgar Wallace, followed by the great detective stories. Those books were mostly published in the interwar years. Not many books came out during the war, but I was reading them after the Second World War. But here's a tip for any author who wants his books to be timeless. Never mention wages or prices. In one of Dorothy Sayers' books, Lord Peter Wimsey staggers all his friends by having the biggest house in the county built for him at the colossal cost of £2,000. Ludicrous when I read it, and even more so now, of course. Debauching the currency has always been the government's favourite activity. Marjorie Allingham was one of my favourite at the time, and to show how much things change, in one of her books the word judgment, Judgement, appears in a letter, and one character knows who wrote the letter because only one person spelled it that way, as the approved spelling was at that time Judgment. Marjorie's bestseller was, I think, The Tiger in the Smoke. Another book I have fond memories of is The Skeleton in the Clock by John Dixon Carr, which is so badly written it's good again, but I love it because the scenes are set in an old execution chamber, in a hall of mirrors and other gothic settings. I'm currently rereading all the Ed McBain 87th Precinct books and look forward to seeing the effects of the Miranda Nescopedo be nice to suspects rules. Last time I asked who wrote The Rain It Raineth. That was Lord Bowen. Now, who wrote Reading Maketh a Full Man?
US tourists are in desperate need for public toilets. The name and address of this supplied has been withheld. We lived on the island for many years. We now visit every year for a holiday. When we lived there, we occasionally visited public toilets, which were nearly always in a prominent spot, and we were grateful. We are now in our 70s. Public toilets are now a necessity in our lives. My husband has IBS and a prostate problem, and he needs to be able to get to a toilet very quickly. I have IBS and need the facility too. We cannot visit places that do not have a toilet. Shops and restaurants do not like you rushing into their premises and heading for the small room with a panicked expression, and it's embarrassing for the people in need and rather off-putting to customers. Then there's the problem if they are engaged, and believe me, it is a real problem, as only people in desperate immediate need understand. We shall not be going to Ryde or other island places where the powers that be have been short-sighted and uncaring enough to remove, close, padlock their public toilets. I suggest a website has a list of places where public toilets are accessible, so a day trip isn't ruined. We were on holiday in the southwest last year, having our picnic lunch in some pretty gardens near a river. My husband had need for the public toilets, which were nearby. One could only get in with a credit/debit card, which he does not carry. So short of breaking the barrier, he was unable to access it. He had to rush over to a bush and go there. How embarrassing and undignified is that? Worse still, a man in a wheelchair found his section inaccessible. He was not only angry but dispirited. He could not even find a bush in his condition. Do the councils want their towns, villages and seaside places to be awash with bodily waste? We are not living in the Dark Ages. This is the 21st century. Please build public toilets and pay somebody to keep them clean and service. Put CCTV nearby with face recognition and catch the mindless, ignorant vandals that damage them. Do not be short-sighted enough to have card/phone only. Give people the choice. I hope that things change for the better very soon.
And now we look to what's on the island. Shanklin Theatre. What's on at Shanklin Theatre? Tabs Production presents Who Killed Agatha Christie? That's on Tuesday 7th of February, Wednesday the 8th of February. 7:30 in the evening on both days, and on Wednesday there's a show at 2:30. Curtain Call Creative presents 9 to 5 the musical. That's Wednesday the 15th of February, that's 7:30, and Thursday the 16th of February, again 7:30 in the evening. One Night in Dublin, that's on Friday the 17th of February at 7:30. Jack Up Events presents A Night of 1,000 Freddies. That's the Bohemian High Energy show with the Queen music. So that's Saturday the 25th of February at 7:30. Jack Up the 60s with the Zoots. That's Saturday the 4th of March at 7:30. And Beyond the Barricade. That's Sunday the 5th of March again at 7:30 in the evening.
And here are the leisure, arts, music and comedy at the Medina Theatre. The telephone number for that is 01983 823884. And we start with the Isle of Wight Symphony Orchestra, who are playing on Saturday the 21st of January at 7:15 p.m. The Circus of Horrors on Tuesday the 31st of January at 7:30 p.m. Tickets are £26 or 24 concessions for over 16s. Aladdin is Saturday 11th and 18th of February at 2:30 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. and Sunday at 12th of February at 2:30 p.m. Tickets are £14 and £10 for under 14s. The Royal Marines Band, Portsmouth, are Thursday the 23rd of February at 7:30 p.m. Tickets are £20. And that is the Leisure Arts and Music Comedy for Medina Theatre.
And now we look to the letters. And this is the personal view of Joe Nash of Cowes. Can we get Prince Harry for treason? So, Prince William decked his annoying little brother Prince Harry. That's not unusual. He conveniently did not mention his comment immediately before the punch or be man enough to hit back. Fancy throwing his teddy out the pram writing a tell-all book. In my opinion, he is a publicity-seeking, money-grabbing, spoilt brat. Harry states that the ball's in their court now. Of course, the royal family will not respond to the motor mouth, so it can be embellished in Meghan's book, bound to be on the way. The proper royals are honourable, with too much dignity for a childish public slanging match. Seems spiteful to me as well, all the privileges Harry has enjoyed that we have funded, and he disrespects our royal family. Not long ago he'd have been in the Tower, and rightfully so. Can we still get him on treason, with Meghan for aiding and abetting? There must be something in the small print. It would be amusing to distract the human rights police with that one.
MPs should try this salary out. This is from Dr. Jane Bowskill of Binstead. Some idiot of a member suggested that nurses were adequately paid and weren't budgeting properly. I suggest all MPs should be paid £30,000, taxed, give up their allowances, second homes, duck ponds, gold wallpaper, mistresses, etc., and live in London. My daughter is a nurse practitioner, and her colleagues with husbands unemployed due to COVID, cost of living, etc., are using food banks to which she contributes, as do we.
Why should the poor have to wait? This is from J. Kendrick of Totland. Well, here we have it. Having run down our NHS for years and years to the point where our 7 million patients are awaiting treatment, according to the Observer, you can jump the queue and get treated within days under the NHS, providing you can pay. Alternatively, you can choose to wait for months and months and then be treated by the same NHS surgeon in the same NHS hospital using the same NHS equipment paid for by you, the taxpayer. Here's the menu being offered by some NHS hospitals. Hip replacements from £10,000, cataract surgery for £2,200 and hernia repairs for £2,500. MRI scans for between £300 and £400. Welcome to the Conservatives' new two-tier NHS, with its VIP fast-track lane for the rich. But what about the poor? Well, they can wait, often in debilitating pain, in some cases for years. Would you expect anything different from Rishi? My family can get a face-to-face appointment with a GP on the same day for £250, and Urim Bevan must be spinning in his grave.
John Herbert of Northwood thinks that we should bring back weekly licence fee for dog owners. I write to you incensed with anger at the amount of dog filth that is left lying on the streets. Do we have dog wardens employed on the island? If so, why do we never see them? Can you inform me of any success they have in bringing the irresponsible owners to book? Perhaps an incentive scheme for the wardens in the form of monetary reward for every dog owner that is fined for the filthy animal waste that they leave on the ground for innocent children, mothers with prams and elderly with walking aids to tread in, and spread even further afield. I can assure you that they would make a fortune within a week of working in the Northwood area. Let's bring back dog licences of, say, £5 a week for a large dog and £2 to £3 for smaller breeds. This would help pay the salaries incentives for the dog wardens.
And this is from M. Battersby of Freshwater. They've lost the plot. Dear editor, I fear the Conservatives have completely lost the plot. It is perfectly okay for Conservatives to seize the opportunity of a global pandemic to set up a VIP lane for their friends and donors to make off with millions of pounds of taxpayers' money. It is perfectly okay for around 170,000 members of the Conservative Party to elect a new leader who within days trashes the economy to the tune of £30 billion, causing untold misery for millions of UK families with mortgages who are already struggling to make ends meet. It is okay to tax the working classes and middle classes to the hilt to replenish the huge sums of money Conservatives have squandered, whilst allowing non-DOMs to pay absolutely nothing. It is perfectly okay to legislate to change the law banning the right to strike. Isn't that called slavery? What planet do the Conservatives think we are living on? The sooner we are rid of these delusional characters, the better.
Not needed in the West White. Joanna Minchin, Chair of West White Villages Residents Association. The WWVRA objects to the application for the 90-acre Barnfield solar farm near Yarmouth, following a conclusive survey of its members. While supporting the concept of solar energy on roofs of buildings or brownfield sites, and that future energy independence must be a key UK goal, the urgency of the must not be to the detriment of many other critical aspects of the Isle of Wight and UK environment. This application conflicts with Isle of Wight policy SP5 on environment. Development has a demonstrable adverse impact on the island's natural, historic and built environments. It should be avoided. The urbanising and industrialisation of this site is considered inappropriate in scale of on this location. It is on agricultural greenfield land and has potentially significant long-term harmful effects to adjacent nationally and internationally recognised nature conservation areas, SSSI, AONB and National Park Commission. This area is publicised by the Isle of Wight Council on their tourist website as quoted. More than half of our island is designated AONB, which offers breathtaking scenery everywhere you look. This precious scenery is threatened. If this development goes ahead, it will add to the growing number of solar farms, and in this area and approximately 160 acres will end up to be covered in solar panels within a couple of miles. The National Planning Policy Framework, the NPPF, includes a number of important and relevant guidelines on the use and supply of green energy. The need for renewable energy should not automatically override environmental protection and planning concerns of local communities. Furthermore, the application is exactly contrary to assurances given when the adjoining Wilmingham solar farm was built that it would not be extended. The predominant economic driver on the island is tourism. We urge the Isle of Wight Council to consider carefully the significant implications of this solar farm proposal when making their decision. Encourage putting solar panels on roofs, especially on large commercial buildings. Don't kill our tourism golden goose.
And it's goodbye from Pauline.
And goodbye from Mike.
And the BBC In Touch programme follows, and the Scaffolding News follows that. Scaffolding and Skips News, week commencing 16th of January 2023, Newport area, Santander, 26 St James's Street, Cherry Godfrey, 32 High Street, Newport Congregation Church, Pyle Street, 29A High Street, 29A Lugley Street, St James's Street.
Ryde area, 5152 High Street, 71 High Street.
Ventnor area, 47 Newport Road, 30 High Street Ventnor, Miramare, Hamborough Road.
Cowes area, 28 Cross Street.
And Yarmouth area, the Deacons, High Street.
BBC Sounds, music, radio, podcasts.
Good evening. Tonight, news of a merger between two well-respected visual impairment charities. But why are they doing it, and what are the benefits to blind and partially sighted people? Chief executives of both organisations are joining us. But first, as promised, we return to the issue of the accessible smart meters to help visually impaired energy users monitor their energy use more precisely and its cost. On a programme before Christmas, we were told that energy providers should be able to install these devices for visually impaired users who asked for them. News which was welcomed by a number of listeners. But many of you have been telling us that when you actually contacted your energy provider to request an in-home accessible display, you were variously told that they didn't have them yet, or they didn't know anything about them, or that they felt the information on their websites was adequate enough. Well, one of those listeners who got in touch with us is Liz Silver, and she joins us. Liz, just remind us what happened to you when you did try to follow up on this and get an adapted smart meter.
I got a very negative response. I rang British Gas, who provide my gas supply. Their kind of attitude was, oh, we don't know anything about this, go away, to put it politely. And then a friend saw the information on the RNIB website, which actually mentioned British Gas as being someone who could provide them. So I rang them up again. It was really difficult. First of all, I was trying to explain to someone, no, I didn't want a smart meter, that I've already got a smart meter. And I actually wanted the talking display. And then I was put on hold for ages while someone filled in a form. And then she eventually came back to me and said, yes, well, we've hopefully got this sorted out now.
You tried a number of energy companies as well, didn't you? Not just your own, to find out what was going on. What sort of responses did you get from them?
Well, I contacted Good Energy, who provide my electricity. And whilst they didn't know anything about it, they were really helpful. They said that they'd have to order one, but they've just been really positive.
Well, we've been on the same kind of journey as you. We've been in touch with a number of energy suppliers. British Gas, who you mentioned, now tell us...
We are very sorry if any individuals have been given incorrect advice. We understand this isn't helpful. We are and have always been supportive of the AIHD rollout, and we are able to offer them to customers who request them. If there are any customers who require an AIHD, we encourage them to contact us.
Well, Good Energy say they apologise that in this case a customer wasn't offered an AIHD straight away. They say we absolutely can offer these. We're ensuring our customer teams are aware of that for the future so that they can be proactively offered to customers with accessibility needs. EDF also apologised to the customer who was told that they weren't offering this service. They say, unfortunately, in this example, it seems the customer was misinformed by our advisor. EDF provides accessible in-home displays as well as providing an AI HD on request. The teams have also been trained to offer one of these devices if a trigger is identified during customer contact, such as a customer mentioning they've poor sight. And they also say they offer refresher courses to their teams to ensure their knowledge remains up to date. They say they provided 1,500 AI HDs over the last year. E.ON and Octopus were other energy companies who assured us in their statements that they did have the accessible smart meters available and were eager to supply them on request. So clearly there's an information gap here somewhere. Not everyone seems to be sold on this idea. This is what Scottish Power told us.
We ran a 6-month pilot scheme of accessible in-home displays last year with around 1,000 Scottish Power customers, designed in partnership with the RNIB. The results found our customers didn't have the appetite for the device that we expected. Therefore, we decided not to purchase any further units until we considered alternative ways to support our customers. We've offered to meet with the RNIB to discuss developments in AI HD technology and any new insights they're able to share.
Well, at this point, we had hoped to speak to Daisy Cross. She's head of the SMART programme of Energy UK. This speaks for the energy market. Unfortunately, Daisy is unable to join us because of illness, but she did tell us in discussion that in fact the energy companies asked Energy UK to look into in-home displays. She confirmed that not all suppliers are offering them and that it's a business decision. She said suppliers do have requirements to offer support to disabled customers, but that could be through other means, accessible formats and websites, etc. Her understanding is that the supply of these smart meters is not a strict requirement. So, why this gap in information? Liz, you've been listening to that. How do you react to what you've heard?
I'm not at all impressed by the information from Energy UK. I would have thought it was a requirement as a reasonable adjustment. Companies saying that they can't supply them is, wow, just beyond belief really. To be able to find out what gas you're using and how much it's costing should be something that anyone should be able to find out easily.
What's your current situation?
In theory, it's moved forward with British Gas. Finally, I've got an appointment set up for February. It did arrive today. It arrived completely out of the blue, but until the actual day of the appointment, I'm not convinced that anything will actually happen.
It may be the summer. Liz Silver, thank you very much indeed. Now, news of a coming together of two visual impairment organisations of particular interest to us because we've featured the work of both of them on the programme recently. The Vision Foundation, for its recent powerful report on domestic abuse experienced by visually impaired people, and another report they did on the difficulties experienced by young people in the employment market, and Fight for Sight, for its continuing campaign for the prevention of avoidable sight loss to have a much higher profile in health spending, and for the money going to scientific research on eye health to make sure it's going to the places where it can do the most good. Joining me are the chief executives of both organisations, Keith Valentine at Fight for Sight, Olivia Curnow with the Vision Foundation. Olivia, let me start with you, soon not to be chief executive of Vision Foundation, but why the merger when the projects I've just described might strike quite a lot of people as very different and distinct from each other, maybe needing two organisations?
We've not been driven so much by the possibility of cost saving, but certainly by the opportunity for growth. So we've recognised that as a joined organisation, we'll have more opportunities to reach out to supporters and to really amplify our voice and our potential for impact. But I think we've also been led really by visually impaired people themselves who've told us about that moment where either they have a diagnosis and they learn that they're losing their sight, or indeed if parents are told that their child has been born with a sight condition. There are two questions in that moment that seem to come up time and again. One is, can you stop this? Can you treat it or preserve my sight? And the other really is, how will I live my life as a visually impaired person? The Vision Foundation has been there for that second question, and Fight for Sight's been absolutely fighting for the first. This joint organisation does both. Yes, we will fight to preserve or restore your sight through world-class research, but at the same time, we will ensure and fight just as hard to make sure that visually impaired people have access to fulfilling and productive and independent lives just like anybody else.
So is it your sense that sometimes those two things don't get actually joined up together at the time when the visually impaired person needs them to be joined together?
I think that's right.
Let me bring in Keith Valentine. Keith, is this a merger or a takeover?
It's in every sense a merger, and it's a strategic merger. The origins of these ideas have gone back a long way, with Olivia and I as leaders in different parts of the sight loss sector, with a question that's driven both of us, which is how do we get more impact? And, you know, if you take areas that Vision Foundation of research like employment, and you see the great capability and capacity of technology, the fact that people are still not making it into the market is raising questions about equity of opportunity and how things go forward. And in the science, we can see that the amount of investment that's going into eye research is disproportionately low when you compare it to other comparable areas of investment. And the question we're seeking to answer is, how do we save sight and change lives?
But I suppose the worry might be that will the kind of work that the Vision Foundation has been doing recently, campaigning on issues affecting people who are already visually impaired, will that get the same sort of attention when your emphasis has been so much on prevention? Both important, but can they be done alongside each other?
We'd obviously say yes. What I would say is this new venture lives and breathes on its ability to elevate and the work that Vision Foundation have done onto the national stage. And one of the first things we look to do is to take that work to the 4 UK nations and beyond London, where the brilliant design of the fund has been done by Olivia and her team, gives us a template for how we can take something at national that requires scale.
Is there a sense here that there are perhaps just too many visual impairment organisations, too much duplication? Still over 700 of them in one report I've seen, and you'll know that this has been an issue before. It's been raised by the RNIB. Is there any feeling of that in this decision?
I mean, in the general analysis of the sector, there is a sense that it's relatively unconsolidated when you compare to the development of areas such as cancer, Alzheimer's and dementia, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't think we're starting from that point of view. We are trying to get form to follow function. So what is absolutely clear is that the impact from the charitable sector on blind people, as with government and public bodies and the way that they approach it, has got to improve. And there's a lot of potential there in the science, there's potential in technology, there's potential in terms of equality and the policy around that for us to take things forward for the community of people impacted by visual impairment. Now, if the answer to that question, as it is in this case, is that by coming together we can do more for the people we're here to serve, then yes, consolidation is a good thing.
Let me bring in a third guest on this issue, ophthalmologist Alistair Denniston. He is working in Birmingham hospitals. He's also part of the Biomedical Research Centre for Ophthalmology at Moorfields Eye Hospital. Alistair, you've contacts with both these organisations. What does this merger of the two mean for your work and the kind of things that you're trying to do in exploring how to get the best value for visually impaired people?
I'm excited. I think what we're seeing here is an opportunity for two amazing charities to have greater impact together. And if we're going to take a person-centred view of this, not a project-centred, but a person-centred view, then we want to be working collectively to see how we can make greatest impact. And the prioritisation needs to be coming from the community in that sense, so that we're meeting what is really needed.
Given that money's not limitless, what is the worry here? Possibly glamour projects, things that get loads of publicity but maybe only affect about half a dozen people?
I'm not concerned about that actually happening because of robust processes that are in place to evaluate. I think the charity has seen the opportunity of trying to make sure that they are funding the work that perhaps wouldn't otherwise get funded.
This merger, how will it persuade government that more money needs to be spent on what you believe is quite a lot of preventable blindness?
I think, as you touched on earlier, there are lots of separate organisations. It can sometimes be a bit confusing for people. And so to have organisations such as these two come together and provide a unified voice, and which provides, if you like, end-to-end consideration or a holistic consideration of the community's needs, I think that's incredibly powerful.
I want to take a quick sidestep here, if I may, because something we talked a lot about on this programme before Christmas was how people were actually given the news about their eye condition, and that often it could be very abrupt, and maybe it could have been done a lot more tactfully. And Keith, I think this is actually something that's happened in your own family. I mean, can you explain what did happen?
I mean, in every generation of my family in a different way. And, you know, when my mother was told retinitis pigmentosa in our family, she was told basically that there's no hope, you'll never see, you'll never work. When I was diagnosed, I was 11 years old, and the ophthalmologist suggested to my mother that I should be sterilised at the point that I came of age to stop the spread of the disease. And most recently, my daughter went for her diagnosis on her own. I wasn't able to attend with her because of the COVID rules. Her scans were being discussed in the corridor in front of us, so she kind of found out by accident. And I think, sadly, that point of diagnosis moment, particularly in an environment where there's such incredible pressure on the NHS and it's so difficult for staff to meet the kind of standards that I know they'd all want, those point of diagnosis moments are utterly impactful in a way that will carry often with people, you know, throughout their lives. There's a point in this merger as well about recognising those areas of pain and where things can go wrong. The point of this new organisation is to place investment alongside the treatment, the solution, the opportunity and the equality at every step.
Olivia, there is sometimes a tension in the visual impairment world, I hear it quite a lot, between work on prevention and services to people who've already gone blind or have been blind for a long time. Can these two needs coexist?
We absolutely think that they can coexist. And actually, it was really interesting noticing we have a committee at the Vision Foundation which decides our grant making and makes those recommendations to board. That committee is entirely visually impaired. We have a medical doctor on that committee, and until very recently, Keith Valentine sat there too. And the bringing of that eye health clinical expertise and mindset into service delivery thinking has been fantastic. And in return, we know a key role for medical research charities is to be the bridge between the end user, the lived expert, the person with the condition, and the scientists. I think the more that we can bring these two sides together, the better. What's clearly missing in some functions is that feedback loop. By launching a new national funder that funds the best research and the best services, but also has that helicopter view so that we can pinpoint moments of real excellence that are really changing lives and then duplicate those, really ensure that we're offering the best for people. I think that's a game changer. What there is at the moment is a paucity of really independent insight and data. And what this new organisation will do is be that critical, independent organisation that looks at what is going on, where are there real pockets of excellence, where are things not working? Because currently, when you look at the prevention data, when you look at unemployment figures, most recently when we looked at domestic violence, it is clear that we are not serving people well. You could argue that we're failing visually impaired people in our society. And there is space for an organisation that will use data and evidence as well as lived expertise to kind of drive priorities.
Keith, have you got a new name for this new organisation yet?
Not as yet. We're keen to do two things in terms of the name. One is to get our teams together and to work from their experience, and of paramount importance is the engagement with the community, so we shape something that everyone feels like they own. What will happen though, as of day one of the merger, is that the Social Impact Fund of Vision Foundation will be developing onto the national stage, and we will be able to put additional investment into the existing Fight for Sight programme. So an immediate consequence of us stepping forward with this new funder is that we'll be able to distribute funds more widely, whilst in a targeted way there'll be more available to do that too. So it's going to be an exciting year. It's not something we can deliver entirely on our own. We've got to do that with close involvement of the community. And at the heart of this, as I said, is people living with sight loss themselves. And if we're going to set out to save sight and change lives, that's a big mission. We've got a long way to go with it. So we need to do that with arms linked with the community to shape this new organisation, which I hope everyone will feel is an exciting step forward for our community.
Would you welcome listeners' suggestions for a name? I know it's a risky business, but
I would suspect, Peter, having discussed it, those suggestions will start anyway. So yeah, I mean, our ears are open. let me say that.
Keith Valentine, Olivia Curnow, Alistair Denniston, thank you all very much indeed. That is it for today. So your comments, your queries, even criticisms, always welcome, or indeed a suggestion of a name for the new organisation. You can email us on intouch@bbc.co.uk, leave voice messages on 0161 836 1338, or go to our website bbc.co.uk/intouch, where you can download tonight's and previous editions of the programme. From me, Peter White, producer Fern Lulham this week, and studio managers Colin Sutton and Owain Williams. Goodbye.